Hello again. I forgot to say when I was up here for the opening prayer that you have, which you would figure out eventually, Cord and myself today. So I'll get through my part so we can get to the main dish. You know, sometimes when you're thinking about what you're going to say and you think, well, I don't know if anybody in the audience is going to benefit, but you have to go with what you got. And sometimes you're more thankful for the streaming because that gives you more hope that maybe there's somebody out there who will see it today or at some point that something resonates with. Not that it's completely out of our grasp here or anything, but I don't know if you know who Amy Tan is. She's an author with books like Valley of Amazement and The Bone Setter's Daughter, The God Kitchen's Wife, or the God's Kitchen. I don't remember how that title is exactly, but it may ring more of a bell. Her first novel became a movie back in the early 90s, I think 93 or 94, called The Joy Luck Club. And it comes up because I've been taking, Katrina gifted me, she got it and gifted me with a year subscription to that master class thing. So I've been partaking of some of that and actually have enjoyed it very much. I know that I probably wouldn't enjoy all of them, but the ones that I've been in so far have been very informative. She is a writer. Obviously, she's giving you information about writing, and it's not that I'm a writer, but sometimes you try to take things from all kinds of skill sets that helps you, just like the one I watched on pitching, not pitching like in baseball, but pitching as in persuasion, because when you think about it, that's what we all do on a daily basis, is we're making a pitch. We're trying to convince people or persuade people or into whether it be conversation or collaboration, and if you do it effectively, it can be both. So anyway, she quoted something, and it was a Zen author, and even if I had his name in front of me, I probably would butcher it, so I don't remember his name. But the quote has stuck with me this past week, actually. And it's maybe even the title that I would put on today's message is The Beginner's Mind. Because his quote, or the quote from him was, in the beginner's mind are many opportunities, but in the beginner's mind there are many opportunities, but in the expert's there are few. It's one of those things when you first hear it, you're like, I don't even know what that means. But then you process it, and you realize an expert thinks they already know everything. So if you're on their subject, they're not going to be very perceptive to what you're pitching or anything else because you are, they're the expert. They don't need. So, but on the other hand, with a beginner's mind, and I think this translates into many areas of life, including our beliefs and our convictions and our study of the Bible. If we always start with a beginner's mind and not thinking that we're the expert, then maybe there's more opportunity. So anyway, for whatever that's worth, that's kind of where this started brewing. Around midnight tonight, there will be bleary-eyed people everywhere thinking that they are ringing in the new year. And I mean, sometimes we watch the ball drop or whatever because that's what people do. And by the Gregorian calendar, I say that when I've gotten to the age to where staying awake till midnight is a real challenge for me. Even though I used to fancy myself a night owl, that age has passed, I guess. But by the Gregorian calendar, I suppose it's true that we will begin in the dead of winter. But from a civilization standpoint, I guess there is something about the beginning of another first quarter, right? Things start over, registers and keeping of books and all that kind of stuff. So I guess there is something to it. And besides, it's not all bad, is it? It's not all bad when we have things in our lives that remind us, as we sang in the song just now, oh, how sweet to walk in this pilgrim's way, leaning on the everlasting arm. So when we have things in our lives and in our surroundings or in our society, in our environment, that reminds us of our pilgrim status, that's not always a bad thing necessarily. Something to flavor and endear us, or endear our longing for that better day, another world, another place, a real homecoming, right? So it's not all bad. I have the Gregorian calendar is the calendar in current use in the Western world, both as the civil and Christian ecclesiastical calendar, instituted by Pope Gregory XIII in 1582. The calendar has 365 days with an extra day every 4 years, the leap year, except, and all that was, well, I wouldn't have been able to tell you the year or actually which pope it was, but this last part has 365 days with an extra day every 4 years, the leap year, except in years divisible by 100 but not divisible by 400. How about that? There's a leap year every 4 years, except when the year is divisible by 100 but not divisible by 400. But you didn't know that. How many times will you have to implement that last nuance? Put that as a reminder in your phone. Yeah, otherwise you're going to struggle to being one day ahead of your family and coworkers, right? Well, no, silly. We didn't leap this year. It was divisible by 100 but not divisible by 400. Where you been? Duh. Wait. Actually though, if you did a 29-day February, let's see, if you did a 29-day February when everyone else didn't because it was a year that was divisible by 100 but not by 400, then you would be a day behind, right? Yeah. So, yeah, anyway, the only time, well, I mean, being a day behind, I guess it's a never mind thing because we can all relate to that anyway, but it's only the Sabbath that we're a day ahead. Or is that a week behind? Anyway, there's that Penrose triangle thing again. And I think Cord was actually the only one I showed that picture to. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we behold his glory. Glory as of the only begotten from the Father, full of grace and truth. We're familiar with that passage. It's John 1, verse 14, even though, if you're like me, I could quote the verse, but I couldn't tell you maybe off the top of my head where. Some verses I can, but a lot of them I can't. So, many people that you and I know just spent a good amount of time at the end of this year, at the waning of this year, at least thinking that they were commemorating, that they were celebrating what we just recited here in John 1:14. Even if this is not the particular passage most notably quoted during this season. Among those who share a view similar to mine, among those I have seen a range of attitudes concerning all the hoopla, concerning these seasonal festivities that we see during this time of year. And I've seen everything from fervent bitterness and maybe even anger, or bitterness and disgust, I guess is probably a better term, to having a minister friend one time who told me, hey, I wouldn't I wouldn't mind all the gift swapping and the merriment if they would just take religion, and most especially Jesus, out of it. Just don't say that it's got anything to do with this. Just do it, like we do a lot of other things. You don't find the 4th of July in here, or Thanksgiving. Well, you find Thanksgiving, but you don't find the day Thanksgiving, right? So, yeah, I've seen it all. Now, obviously I'm paraphrasing how that discussion or that statement actually went, but that was the gist of it. I don't have a problem, or wouldn't have a problem with the stuff that goes on. It's just that people trying to make something religious out of it, right? And I think there's probably some concurrence to that. Now, no doubt your personal feelings fall somewhere in that range as well. If I'm honest, I can see that I have moved within that scale or that range over the years. Not quite arriving where my friend says that I'm okay with all the, I don't know that I've quite arrived at that point. But bitterness and disgust is simply not a good place for me to dwell. It just isn't. That space, whether it be umbrella or tent, as Chris changed to for his version, I think it was last week. I want to get away from the umbrella. It's a tent. But the same concept, whether it's an umbrella or a tent, that space requires my mind to be closed. Therefore, it's not a beginner's mind. It's an expert mind in some ways. That I already know you can't. I don't want to talk about it. Don't want to think about it. But it does require my mind to be closed, and it may also cost me opportunities to relate to someone who, although practicing the merrymaking, still shares my hope. Still shares my hope of a returning king and a resurrection from the dead, a resurrection to eternal life. Now, I'm not completely backtracking, brethren, and I'm not trying to change where you are in that scale. That's your journey. That's your, I have to admit, all the fuss and the hoopla can be exasperating. It can. And the other thing that I really have to chuckle at when I'm not chuckling, and I'm maybe waving a fist or something, I don't know, but is that there's not much of that merriment in the stores and the parking lots and on the street as those last shopping hours or even before that, way before that. But anyway, my King's word, the word of my King, says to me, but I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be children of your Father who is in heaven. Matthew 5:44. So, if I read that, any exasperation that I've felt over the last month falls way short of that, doesn't it? It falls way short of persecution. Bitterness and disgust comes from thinking people wake up on December mornings thinking, oh, another day I get to reject the commandments of God so I can keep the traditions of men. That's not the thought. Not for most people. There are people that reject. There are people that are not partakers. We all know that, right? I'm going to cling to the traditions of men and reject the commandments of God. It's not rational. I know that there are some faithful people. There are some faithful people who live in houses where Christmas trees sparkle. And when I say faithful people, I'm not talking about the masses out there that maybe even have them in the church sanctuary and all that. I'm saying people who abstain from the festivities, from the hoopla and the corruption, may still have to be in a house where There's all the trimmings, the trappings, the decorations, the lights, the Christmas tree, the gifts, whatever. You know that whomever you live with that wants those things there isn't doing it for the reason I just stated. Let me consciously, purposefully reject the commandments of God so that I can keep the traditions of men. Now, there may be all kinds of wagging and smoke and mirrors and all this stuff to justify, but still, that's not rational. That's not what most people are doing. And again, I'm not trying to change your opinion or move you in that scale or in that range. I do have a point, I think. There is a scene in an old animation. And I say old because I was probably a wee lad the first time I saw it, and I'm soon in the next few days to put the capstone on 56 years. So it's old enough as far as animation is concerned. But there is a scene, and it's old animation, and somehow it touches me, and I think that it always has. And it's not the whole, it's cute as far as Christmas animation, whatever it goes, but not so much visually as audibly. And I've brought myself a little technical help here, just because I don't know which one of these speakers, and I can't hold it to both, or which one of these mics. Now I'm going to attempt to play this. I will not guarantee you that it will work. But when I do, if I do, I want you to, if you're not comfortable closing your eyes in a group, if you want to put your head down or whatever it is, just to help you concentrate, to hear the words.
Lights, please. Sure, Charlie Brown. I can tell you what Chris... Lights, please. And there were in the same country shepherds, abiding in the field, keeping watch over their flock by night. And lo, the angel of the Lord came upon them. And the glory of the Lord shone round about them. And they were sore afraid. And the angel said unto them, Fear not. For behold, I bring you tidings of great joy, which shall be to all people. For unto you is born this day in the city of David a Savior, which is Christ the Lord. And this shall be a sign unto you. Ye shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of the heavenly host praising God, and saying, Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. That's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown.
Simple, in the voice of a child.
Here are 5 washing machine tips for better laundry. Number 1.
5 washing tips for your laundry. Yeah. To hear, without even watching, to hear the voice of a child, and that could be an adult making a child's voice. Don't know, don't care. That doesn't sound like rejection, does it? It doesn't sound like rejection. Because that's the character Linus, as you already know, reading or reciting Luke chapter 2, verses 8 through about 14. It doesn't sound like rejection, but I'm sure when my kids were small, or even when they were not so small. Now, my parents didn't have a problem at that time with me watching Christmas-related stuff. But if I'd come in the house when my kids were small, and they were watching the little sad Christmas tree on Charlie Brown, I would have been disgusted and bitter. Turn that off. Now, my kids I don't know why they would resent me for saying it, but, I can say, and that's the reason I said the thing about some people, they do have to maybe have a Christmas tree in their house or whatever, just in the matter of keeping peace or whatever. I'm not one of those people, and it's not because my wife has asked me and I've refused. It's just she values my wishes, I guess, and I appreciate that. But I've never, since I started in my first home away from home, there's never been a Christmas tree in my house, and that's just a thing. But I go to my kids' houses now. They all have Christmas trees. They never had one growing up, but they have Christmas trees in their home. And I think if there is any awkwardness, it's from them wondering what I'm thinking about them having a Christmas tree in their house. Not that I care that there's a Christmas tree in their house. You're an adult. That's your choice. And there are conversations to be had. My grandchildren have started being inquisitive as to why Papa is such a Scrooge. I went to keep them the other day. One of the first questions I got, Papa, why don't you do Christmas? Grammy already told you he don't do anything that's not in the Bible. Well, that's not exactly true, but that's a starting point. It's a starting point. But I'm not going to make those kids feel any sort of way. Oh, you disgust me. Because that's really not where I want to be. And again, brethren, if anyone listening online or walks out of this building thinking that here he goes, it's just a matter of time. He'll be coming in here with a Santa suit on. He'll be wanting to put a tree up in the church. That is not the case, and is not my point. I'm using Christmas as an example of us in life having a beginner's mind versus an expert's mind. There's less opportunity. That doesn't sound like rejection to me. But and I hope somewhere, if you know someone who struggles with the merriment and the symbols I hope it helps someone to understand. There has been so much bad stuff, brethren, and you know this, done in the name of religion. Not just done in the name of religion, but done in the name of Christianity. Bad things. None of us are doing those things. Not to that level. I've probably done some bad things. I've probably made my kids feel a certain sort of way. And I don't regret it, because I was being a dad. And I was doing what I felt like was my job and what I was supposed to do. Now, that's not the kind of thing I'm talking about when I say so much stuff. I guess it fits in. I don't know if I would have done it differently if I would start over today. Yes, I would. I would do it differently. I would want my children to know that there can be a conversation. Dad doesn't walk in their house and is abhorred and I can't believe you. Oh my goodness. There's always room for conversation. Healthy conversation. You celebrate Christmas, I don't. That doesn't make one of us any less of a person than the other. We're all human beings. And if we lose the ability to have conversation, what are we doing? Christ didn't stand and give the Beatitudes and all these different sermons of love one another. Not, look at their resume first. See what they're into. See if you can, no. When Christ says to me personally. Freddie, love your enemies. Pray. Not only love your enemies, somebody you think's not on your side or somebody that you think is an adversary, but pray for those who persecute you. Is that his example? When he had his arms above his head or stretched out, whichever way it was, either way it killed him. We don't need to argue about whether it was a cross or a stake. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. What kind of mind is that? Because in a lot of ways, brethren, we are all in this together. Yes, we have been given some knowledge, but you know my caution with that. With much knowledge comes much responsibility. It's not again, people, I know that there are people who reject, and people don't want anything to do with it. Don't talk to me about this religion stuff. I don't want to hear it. But yet we'll still celebrate the birth of Jesus, so they think. Yeah. Anyway, but it's not, in my mind, it's not a rejection. It's just not. Unto us this day is born. And now, I'm not saying it because it's close to December 25th. Let's be real. But Jesus Christ was born. We have a way to the Father because he was born. Now, he doesn't tell us anywhere in here to celebrate. And I think that's one of the reasons why we have the message about, well, you're doing all this other stuff, and you'll do all kinds. You'll celebrate anything. But you won't celebrate the days that I give you. Now, even, brethren, we know that the year doesn't start in the dead of winter. Not in God's eyes. We start a new year when things are in bloom and we've got a fresh slate of holy days, right? When things are coming alive. And it says this will be the beginning of months to you. But by the Gregorian calendar, it is the swapping of a calendar. We go from 2022 to 20. I cannot believe. I don't know where 2022 went to, actually. Yeah. But so much has been done in the name of religion. And it's certainly not in line with the words of our King. He says there's a time and a place. Now, this wasn't one of his sermons. It's actually Ecclesiastes, but time and place for everything. And these are just thoughts. Just thoughts. So, yeah, a lot of people tonight will be ringing in the new year. It's the last day of the year, so I guess Cord and I get the opportunity to ring out the old year. But the season can be trying. It can be trying, brethren. But all I can encourage you to do is try to see the silver lining. Cord?